This is David Jackson for Field Education, Social Work 7900. I'm doing my case presentation. Um, this case presentation is about a client on his individual level. The client had a number of different factors that affected the situation. On a macro level, the client is homeless and was lodged at a shared housing treatment facility. The client came in asking to be housed in another facility because he was on restriction due to a positive methamphetamine drug test. On a micro level, the client is a gay male, gay white male, that has been diagnosed with severe depression and is also HIV positive. And his addiction to methamphetamines is one of the main reasons the client refused to accept the fact that he was on restriction. On the meso level, the client is housed at a shared housing facility, which is a community facility, and he is currently seeking psychiatric treatment for his depression. The client is also a member of the CMA, which is a Crystal Meth Anonymous, and he has a Crystal Meth Anonymous sponsor. The strengths for this client, the client, he was very motivated um, to look for work. I mean, his main focus was, I need a job, I need a job, I need a job, and they're keeping me from finding a job. He's a very articulate individual and can form a very good argument to plead his case. The client did have a posture and attitude at our initial meeting that suggests he was willing to accept the terms of his housing situation due to being homeless. When I talked to him about it, he basically told me, "Yeah, I'll do whatever it is I have to do because I'm out on the street and I don't want to be on the street again." Some of the client's weaknesses was that the client accepted he accepted his current situation, but he refused to accept his addiction is what caused him to be on the 30-day restriction. He felt the terms of the restriction were irrational and they were preventing him from finding employment. During the session, he became very irate a few times because I informed him that he could not be moved simply because he wanted to be moved. We have certain rules that are in place, and once we have a client that is housed and they're um, in a safe environment, we're not going to take them out of there and try to find another place to put them in simply because they don't want to be in that place. Planning and contracting. My first plan of action was to get the client to focus on the root issue, on the root cause of his entire state of disarray, which was his positive drug test. I explained to the client that the program he is in is and the restrictions placed on him was for his benefit. It was to help him. He would not move. We would not be able to move him from one program to another because he disagreed with the rules. Our goal is to get him in the facility and off of the street, and that goal was accomplished. Even if he found a job, I explained to him that, you know, whatever job you find, you may have to take a drug test. And would you rather pass it or fail the drug test? I was like, so it will behoove you to just follow this plan, go through these 30 days, and get clean so that when you do find a job, you can have a positive drug test and increase your odds of actually placing that job. Um, Although he wanted to leave the program, he would be funded for up to 60 days by the organization that I work for, Hope Atlanta, as long as he kept with the goals that were set for him week to week. He kept trying to focus on finding work, finding work, finding work. I had to keep getting him to focus on getting clean, getting clean. You're already housed, so we have that piece taken care of. Now we need to get the drugs out of your system in order for you to get off of the restrictions. Um, I explained to him that after the 30-day restriction would be lifted, he still had another 30 days at this place, at the place where he was being housed, to find employment. And if for some reason he did not find employment and couldn't get permanent housing by the end of that 30 days, which would have been a total 60 days, he could return back to us and we would find another alternative in order to get him housed. Um, the client is currently enrolled in the program to help him with permanent housing. So he already had that goal accomplished. The goals I set for him um, for our next session were to continue this treatment at the current facility that he's at, to update me on his progress, check on his status of his permanent housing application, update me on any doctor's appointments that he had, from the time that I was meeting with him to the time of our next appointment, if he had any, and to check in with his CMA sponsor. You know, after the client was given his voucher for that 1 week of lodging, he will have to return with all of his updates and let me know with the goals that I set, the progress on all of those goals in order to get another week of housing. With Hope Atlanta, we house people a week at a time. Even though they may be in a program for up to 60 days, we don't pay for them for 60 days. We set goals for them for each week that they have to accomplish, and that will determine whether or not we continue to give them services or not. Intervention. With the way the services at this organization are orchestrated, I would not interact with the client again until his next appointment. The only time I would intervene between appointments would be if there was a severe disciplinary issue that needs to be dealt with at the facility that he's in. If the client gets kicked out of the program, if the client has completed the program and is discharged from the program, or if the client quits the program. Those are the only times I would intervene with him throughout the week. If there was either an issue or he actually made the progress and completed the goals in order to exit the program. I put evaluation, termination, and follow up, put these three together because they all pretty much interrelated. The client was scheduled for a follow up appointment 1 week later, where pending on his progress of his goals, he will be given a second week of lodging. I saw the client on a Monday, and I rescheduled him another appointment the following Monday of the following week. The client did not show up to the scheduled appointment. Sometimes we have clients, we schedule them in the morning, they won't show up to the afternoon. So I pretty much waited all day to see, if he would, or all day while I was there to see if he would come come to an appointment or if he would just show up. And then when I got back to the organization the next day, I found out that he did not come throughout that whole day, the entire day. Due to his absence, I knew he would have to vacate the facility because, I mean, it's kind of like paying rent. If you don't pay the next week, they're not going to house you for that next week. So, being that he didn't come on that Monday because his voucher was only good from the previous Monday to Sunday, and he would have to come the following Monday to get the next voucher for the next week. So, I knew they would eventually probably kick him out because he hadn't paid for the next week. So because he didn't show up, I called the case manager at the facility where he was staying. Talked to the case manager there. That case manager had informed me that throughout the week they were having some issues with the client's attitude and just his whole overall demeanor and personality, saying that their system was broke and that he was going to fix their system and it didn't make sense the things that they were doing. And he wanted them to lift his 30-day restriction, which they were unwilling to do because those are their rules. If you come in and you have a positive drug screening for any drug, they're going to put you on a 30-day restriction. And then after the 30 days is up, you pass the next drug screening, then they'll lift that restriction. So talk to the case manager. Case manager said that he, you know, he got upset with them, didn't want to abide by the rules, and so he left that Saturday prior to the Monday of his following appointment. I got into contact with his sponsor, his CMA sponsor, the Crystal Meth Anonymous sponsor, and I talked to the sponsor and asked him if he had gotten contact with him, and the sponsor also told me that he had not gotten contact with him. Last he heard from him was when he left the facility, and he called him and told him he was leaving, and he said he has no idea where the client has gone. Um, on the summary with the self evaluation, I don't think there's anything I could have done differently in this situation. The way the program is set up at Hope Atlanta, it's kind of cut and dry. We house people, we pay for housing or lodging, for homeless people while they're seeking transitional home housing or while they're seeking permanent housing. And we got the client house. So as far as our goal, it was accomplished. A client comes in seek housing. We assess the client's needs and situations, do an intake, and contact a housing facility for vacancies. And if the client qualifies, he or she is lodged 1 week at a time. The client leaves and is in the care of other case managers in these other facilities that are assisting the client's needs. Hope Atlanta is primarily an organization that funds other facilities to house homeless clients. After a client leaves our office, he or she has to take steps on his or her own in order to make progress and continue service. The strengths, I believe my strength in this situation was keeping the focus on the positive drug test, which was the reason why he was on the restriction, and not on the client wanting to find a job. For me, getting clean was the priority for the client. Then he would have the freedom to do everything else he had desired. I set reasonable goals that were attainable. I did not let the client control the meeting, and I had to keep the focus on the organization's priorities for him, which was finding him lodging and then helping him get sober. Any weaknesses? In all honesty, I don't think I couldn't find any weaknesses in this situation that I was in with him. Um, my primary task was to get the client off of the street and get him lodged, and that task was accomplished. The actions that I took following that were due to the disposition of the client. The client chose on his own not to want to follow the rules, and he ended up basically quitting the program and leaving the program at his own recognizance. So, this was my presentation. It's at 12 minutes. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will be in Oregon back on the beach. See y'all later.